Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and this is the brand new January 2024 LEGO Monkey Kids Mini Mech. It is, for the first time, a chibi-styled Monkey King mech, where you can see a lot of the proportions are almost cartoon-styled to make it fit into a very interesting package. Now, this set retails for $55 US, which is certainly very interesting. On the surface, it feels like it's pretty good value. Right, again, it has 556 pieces, but upon further inspection, I definitely want to spend a lot more time talking about the value and what the set has to offer. Now, if you're curious, here's what the mech looks like next to the other Monkey Kid mechs that we've gotten in the past. We've gotten two big warrior mechs as well as a few smaller mech side builds before, but none that quite look like this. So I'm excited to be able to finally showcase this alongside the other mechs for all of you, and let's jump into the review. Alright, so this is 80051 Monkey Kids Mini Mech, which just released on January 1st, 2024. It retails for $55 US or 45 euros, which roughly translates to $50 US and comes with 556 pieces, putting it at about a 9.9 or 8.1 cent price per part ratio. This set includes one minifigure, a new version of MK himself, as well as a chibified version of his classic Monkey Kid mech, where some of these same design principles can be seen as you can find in the larger scale Monkey Kid mechs, except this one has a much shorter torso, shorter limbs, and a very unique visual aesthetic that really makes it stand out from some of the other mechs LEGO has made. This is a pretty posable mech. It does come with a cloud as well, which you can either have the mech use or MK himself use, and yes, it does actually fit Monkey Kid in the mech itself. One of my favorite things I do want to point out about the box art is that it showcases MK lifting up the mega-sized staff, which is something you often see in the show, so I think it's really funny how you can actually see it like that on the box. Moving closer to the mech itself though, let's focus in and start off with the minifigure itself, because this is actually a brand new version of the main protagonist. Monkey Kid has been outfitted with specialized golden shoulder pads, which are really nicely molded. I love the design and overall aesthetic of these pads. They have like Chinese lions on the sides of them. Mei also has this in the new Mei Dragon mech, so it's cool to see them getting matching outfits, and I also really like the predominantly white outfit, which is something we haven't really seen for Monkey Kid before, but really works well with his color scheme. This is one out of 4 unique Monkey Kid minifigures we get for this wave. Every single one of the sets has a unique variation of him, which is really interesting to see, and this is probably my favorite one so far. The armor piece just really elevates this minifigure above and beyond, and I really hope that armor piece becomes available on Pick-a-Brick because I definitely want to army build it just to use for my own custom LEGO creations. MK does not come with a new face this time, just the normal face as we have come to expect from his character, but there's nothing wrong with that, and overall, just a pretty cool looking figure in almost like a racing or mech pilot outfit. The design almost reminds me of some of the Exo Force outfits that we got back in the day, and that is always a very good thing. Placing him inside of his mech here, let's take a closer look at the mech itself, which yes, again, does fit Monkey Kid. Now this is a really weird and interesting set, and honestly, I'm a little bit mixed on how I feel about the set in general, just in terms of the proportions and overall design of the set itself. Obviously, this is not meant to be taken really that seriously. It is a very goofy looking thing. It is kind of meant to be a funny looking mech, which I guess that's kind of the intent they're going for, but I don't necessarily see this one being super cool in like action scenes or something like that. If anything, again, Season 5 is not out yet at the time of this recording, but I could see this being used as maybe like a one-off joke in the show, but we'll see exactly how they actually use it. Now, I'm going to remove it from the cloud for now and set the cloud aside just so we can take a look at the posability of the mech itself. The head is mounted on a Mixel-style mini ball joint, so you can kind of move the head up and down and back and forth. The building techniques used on the head are actually really solid. They're very similar to the large-scale Monkey Kid mech heads, which is a good thing because those are really, really cool, very consistently cool. You have some of these angled pieces being used to form the jawline. You have a sticker being used for the nose there, which was a little bit hard to put on, but once you line it up, it is generally okay. You have printed pieces for the eyes, and you even have the long ear/coattail type pieces all attached by Mixel joints as well, so you can actually position those wherever you want. They even use the new Mech finger element introduced this time last year for some of the eyebrows, which I think fits the head very well. In terms of the rest of the posability, the arms are mounted on ratchet joints, so you can move them up and down and back and forth. They have these large curved elements on the top of them, which kind of harken back to the original Monkey King warrior mech design, which also had these really large shoulder pad hoops, which is a nice design choice, and the fingers can be articulated as well, where the fingers almost feel like this came out of a large-scale Monkey Kid mech. Same with the shoulders, but it's just very chibified. It's like you took the hands, the head, and some of the feet from maybe a super large-scale mech and just put it on this very funny-looking torso. It's certainly an aesthetic that takes a little bit to get used to, but it's definitely not bad. The legs themselves are pretty fixed in terms of articulation. There's a little bit of articulation that you can get out of them. They are technically mounted on ball joints, but since they are so rigidly mounted, you can't really do anything with the legs other than just have them positioned back and forth. I almost feel like they didn't even need to put a ball joint there because you can't really get any amount of articulation out of it. Like, you can get a little bit. This is some. Back and forth is also some, so I guess that does something, but I definitely wish that it was a little bit more posable, but again, that's not really the point of this mech. The point is for it to kind of look silly and to be walking around with its oversized big feet like so. It's certainly a very interesting concept for a LEGO mech for sure. Now, there is an articulatable tail also on the Mixel mini ball joints, and this does even have the foil elements in terms of flags on the back, which I always do like. I actually am in the camp of LEGO fans that do like the usage of foil elements. I feel like they really elevate something like this, where they have this metallic and shiny design to them, so I am always a fan of it when LEGO does those, especially in Monkey Kid sets. But overall, I'm gonna be honest, there isn't that much else to do about the mech. There are these little pieces that fold open. I'm not really sure why they actually fold, but maybe you can have it be part of the transformation sequence when the mech is being created, having the mechanical parts coming together, and the staff itself is pretty simple. It's just a long string of connectors utilizing the Technic ball bearing piece, and that is pretty much all I have to say about the articulation and design of the mech itself. Now, the torso is actually pretty nice. I like the usage of the gold LEGO Nexo Knights piece, the triangular element here and here. That really does kind of give it almost an armor scale type of pattern to it. And overall, it is a pretty cool looking thing if you just look at the torso or if you look at the individual components. But when you zoom out, it is definitely a very fun and chibi thing that isn't really meant to be taken seriously. I definitely feel like this one feels more coordinated towards appealing to Asian audiences or maybe the Asian marketplace, which I definitely see a lot of stuff like this that's like chibified versions of popular characters, and I'm not really sure how well the set is going to do outside of the Asia Pac region, but again, this is primarily made for that region, so I definitely can understand it. It is a really weird and interesting thing for LEGO to do, and it is the umpteenth Monkey Kid mech we've gotten. I think it's like the 4th or 5th if you count the side builds. So we've gotten a lot of these ones, but none that quite look like this. I actually kind of like showing him sitting down. It's almost like a big kid, like you have it removing the staff, you have it sitting down, and it's just kind of putting his hands on the legs like that. That's kind of a funny pose for this one. So there are fun things that you can do with it if you just don't take it too seriously. Now, the cloud itself is actually really nicely built. The only unfortunate thing is that due to the construction of the internal pieces, there are colors in there that really should not be seen. You've got some tan, you've got teal and blue, which feel a little bit awkward and break the aesthetic of the cloud itself. And especially on the front, you have these orange pieces, which really didn't need to be orange. Like, they definitely could have just made a lot of these pieces white so you could have it floating along. I get that it's a set designed for kids and you want to have a little bit of variability in the colors so kids can easily put it together, but I don't know, I feel like when you're doing something like that, they at least should be fully covered up. The cool thing though is that you can actually mount the mech on the cloud itself, so like Monkey King and Monkey Kid often do in the show, you can have it racing away on the cloud, which is very nice, and I actually really like the inclusion of the cloud because it is also something that can be used by the Monkey King and Monkey Kid figures as well. Removing him from the mech here, this is actually something shown on the box, but you can kind of pretend that this is just a massive cloud that he has summoned and put together, and he's just riding it himself, much like you see in the show, so that's pretty cool. I like the overall concept and design of something like this, but overall, not much else to say about this build. The one thing that I will say is that this has over 500 pieces, but by looking at the mech, I don't think that would have been totally obvious. This is, again, a set that costs $55 US, which by piece count seems okay, but by the amount of stuff you get, I'm gonna be honest, this does not feel like a $55 set to me. The European price of 45 euros, aka $50 US, is a little fairer, but I don't know, despite this having a lot of pieces, I believe that that's because a lot of those pieces are used in little bits and pieces of detail all around the mech itself. They also have the cloud, which, while nice, is kind of superfluous. Like, I don't really think the set really needed the cloud per se, and that definitely does add on to the price. I would have been much happier if this set was, I don't know, $40. Maybe that's too little to ask for given the amount of pieces, but for the amount of stuff you get, this feels like a fairly decent $40 set to me. $50 is already pushing it, and $55 is just a little bit too much, but honestly, that's just how I feel. Now, the set maybe could have benefited from the inclusion of another minifigure. Having just one single minifigure definitely brings it down a bit for me, but since they are really keeping the villains close to their chest, I'm assuming we won't even get the villains until the summer wave. We don't get any villains in these brand new 2024 January sets because they're really just focusing on the anniversary and focusing on just having the characters existing in harmony, which is a nice touch. I actually do like that this wave is mostly peaceful. Like, there's not a lot of conflict going on in the wave. There are literally no villains whatsoever other than the villains that appear in Megapolis, so it's quite interesting seeing them take a break from the conflict in the MK line, but unfortunately, because of that, that means that there weren't really any other minifigures included in the set. Would it have been cool to get one of the companions like Pigsy or Tang or any of the other characters that often accompany Monkey Kid? Yes, for sure, but I think that because of a lack of villains, they just decided to include Monkey Kid as the only figure in the set, which I think does hurt it somewhat. And so, overall, my feelings on the set are honestly a little bit mixed. I like a lot of what it does. I also feel that a lot of what it does just isn't quite for me. I prefer it when mechs look really cool and that you can pose them in cool poses, and this one is more of a cute cartoonishy thing. Nothing against the set design itself, it's just really not my cup of tea personally, but I do like a lot of things about this mech. I do like having it in my collection, and it does look pretty fun, but I usually just prefer some different styles of mechs other than this. But I definitely know that a lot of people will end up liking this because of how cute it is and how chibi it is as a little thing. That's all I have to say for this review. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this look at Monkey Kid's Mini Mech. Alright, and with that, we have summed up our look at the Monkey King Mini Mech. It certainly is quite an interesting concept for a LEGO set. It's a pretty cute and posable thing, but honestly, I definitely prefer the mechs that look a little bit different compared to this. Still, it's a pretty solid set. I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for tuning into Duckbricks. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon, and bye for now.